Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Sprague from Persimmon Health. I am a serial entrepreneur working on healthcare technology that helps more people access better quality of care. This podcast is for the movement of innovators, entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, and thought leaders that are advancing the American healthcare system through digital health. In this podcast, we highlight real stories of innovators and enablers of digital health, their opportunities, challenges, and learnings for innovation. We'll cover topics such as startup building and fundraising, entrepreneurship, emerging technologies, and big ideas to transform healthcare. We invite you to participate in this community, share your stories, and accelerate the movement. Thank you. We have an awesome pod. Enjoy. Today, our guest is Ron Fridman. Ron is the CEO and co-founder of Mawi, a digital health company that creates wearable medical devices and technology to diagnose and monitor cardiac diseases. Importantly, Mawi is a wearable that patients don't mind wearing because of its form factor, and some of the heavy lifting is done by machine learning, scanning each beat to detect abnormalities where patients and providers may not be able to. Last year, he was featured in the Forbes 30 Under 30 and has fascinating stories and learnings to tell of his journey to that point, starting in Ukraine outside of the medical field, eventually deciding to focus on the US healthcare market, and also around his startup's journey from a wellness device to a medical grade device, breaking new ground with software that really amplifies the power of the hardware. Ron, welcome to the pod. Would you mind giving a brief introduction about you and what Mawi does?
Yeah, hello, Chris. Hello, Bimal. Hello, folks. So, yes, my name is Ron Fridman. I'm Ukrainian. I was born in Israel, but my parents was divorced when I was 1 year old. So I moved to Ukraine, and all my childhood, all my student time, I spent in Ukraine. So, my background is machine learning by signal analysis. So I was related during my bachelor degree, during my master degree, during my thesis and preparation to medical field, but I'm not really from the medical field. Yes, my background is mostly mathematical. But from the beginning, from my all university time, my idea was to be a part of some healthcare project. So as a university, we applied to some grants. We started our ECG analysis lab to contribute in this very, very interesting domain all together with my supervisors, with my classmates. And one day we realized that it could be bigger than just a master thesis, and we decided to switch to the business. We have no idea how business works, how digital health works, how preventive personalized medicine works. We had just like couple of ideas how we can contribute to this beautiful domain, how we can create some devices, some let's say algorithms, but we didn't have any ideas how it really works. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and starting in signal analysis, you could go so many different directions. What inspired you to make health tech your stomping ground?
Yeah, from my childhood, my dream was to be a doctor. But when I was probably 14 years old, I realized that probably it's a very long time to begin studying for a doctor. So you need to spend more than 10 years studying, and probably after you will be successful in this occupation. So, and my idea was to be more fast and like to learn less but to gain results, to achieve some results faster. That's why my focus was on the STEM, on the applied science, on the physics, mathematics. I was rather good in biology and physics and mathematics. That's why my idea was to be a, let's say, computer science guy with a like background in machine learning, artificial intelligence. When I started my university classes, AI was not very popular word. It was not even a buzzword. So it was kind of miracle. So artificial intelligence, some very strange algorithms and very interesting and so on. So that's why I put my attention on this and I decided to be a part of this. But this probably childhood dream to be a doctor, to support people, to help people, to be close to healthcare system was in my head during the whole my university times. And one day I realized that I can mix it, I can combine it using my knowledges in biosignal analysis, in machine learning, in algorithms, to combine my knowledges with my passion to help people, to support people, and to be a part of the healthcare industry. And that's why together with my co-founders, we found the way how we can make it efficiently.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, that's interesting because it's similar to my journey. I studied computer science and did research in machine learning before deciding that I wanted to build products. And I've been on this personal journey of learning healthcare for the past 7 years and have faced a lot of challenges coming from a non-clinical background. I'm curious, what are some of the challenges that you faced in starting a healthcare company as a non-clinician?
Yeah, the biggest challenge was that we didn't understand doctors. So, as engineers, as young engineers, we had brilliant ideas, we had brilliant algorithms, we had brilliant technologies, but we didn't have probably a right product vision and like kind of customer development phase. So we just try
Hmm.
to visit some doctors, some outstanding doctors, and tell them, guys, so we know better than all of them, so we know that our stuff is better, so we know what to do, how to do, and so on. And for sure, it was a wrong approach because it not only for healthcare domain, it's for all product development phases. You need to be focused first of all on your clients' needs, and you need to spend a lot of time with your clients, with your customers, to realize what
Hmm.
they are looking for exactly. Because as the customers, they cannot write you the final technical requirements for the product. They can give you some ideas.
Hmm.
Okay, it could be good if you will have something this, something this, something this, but they cannot prepare for you a product landscape. That's why probably the biggest,
Hmm.
let's say, miracle how to convert this expert knowledge of doctors, or even not doctors, I mean of experts, to product
Hmm.
vision, how to empower, how to augment this vision by the technology, by unique team, by some algorithms or software, and how to create a product based on this mix of, let's say, expert requests, expert, like, let's say, perceptions, and real
Hmm.
technology which could be delivered to the market. But for sure, we need to consider FDA, we need to consider regulatory, we need to consider clinical trials, we need to consider all these phases of the medical device development to understand that it's possible to do, it's doable, and in the end of the day, let's say your product landscape and roadmap could be much more longer than in other industries. Let's say in some industries it could be 1 year. In health tech it could be 3 or 4 years because you need to not only to develop something or to create something, you need to prove it, to test it, to validate it, to make all performance testing. If we talk about devices like biocompatibility, human factors, EMC, and so on, to pass FDA, 510K, MDR, etc. And only after all
Hmm.
these processes, you will be, let's say, able to start your marketing and sales. But it not means that you will be successful on
Right.
the market. It's just beginning.
Right. And you just mentioned one of my kind of keywords, which is customer development. And a book that saved me in particular when I was running my previous startup was Four Steps to the Epiphany by Stephen Blank. And that goes through customer development of authentically talking to people and discovering if you're solving a problem that they're willing to pay for and will find useful before you even get off the ground. I'm just wondering what kind of philosophy that you follow with customer development. And then one of the challenges I found with customer development is the art of the interview. How do you talk to what you think is your target market to get authentic answers? Because as you said, people will provide solutions and ideas all day, but oftentimes that's not the golden nugget that's there. It's them talking through their workflow and the pain points that they have and trying to synthesize what really those most painful points are as they recount their experiences. But yeah, I'm wondering, how did you go about getting in the heads of doctors when you decided you wanted to build something that's for them?
Absolutely. I will even give you one more insight from my previous experience, that in our business, not only in our, but in our as well, end payer, it's not equal to end user. It's not equal to, let's say, end beneficiary. So we have three types of kind of customers in our business, in remote cardiac telemetry, in our cardiac business. We have a doctor who is for sure a key, so central customer, because without cardiologist, without doctor, our product cannot exist, because the main value we deliver for them for sure. But in the end of the day, we have patient, and it's also our customer, because it will have a perfect solution for cardiologist, but it will be not applicable to the patient lifestyle. We need to multiply it on zero. It will be nothing, because patient would not able to use this solution efficiently. They will not happy with this solution, and it will decrease level of, let's say, successful patient compliance, level of studies finished successfully, and so on. Yes. So, and the final end payer, in our case, it's insurance company, it's national insurance like Medicare, Medicaid, it could be private insurance like United Health, Aetna, and so on. But in the end of the day, we need to satisfy them. Probably in our case, it's the easiest part, because to satisfy them, we already have CPT codes issued by Medicare, by Medicaid, which is already give us a set of rules how our product could be reimbursed and what should we do to be reimbursable as a company, as a product, as a study. So, but in such cases, in some cases of, let's say, my friends, I know a lot of people from the market, it could be much more complicated, because you need to find who will pay. Sometimes it could be pharmaceutical companies like digital therapeutics. Sometimes it could be insurance company, health benefits, or even organizations like just companies who care about employers and so on. There is a number of factors you need to consider. So that's why you're asking me, so how we go through the heads of cardiologists. I would tell that it was the step one to realize what should be done to satisfy needs of cardiologists, but it's only, let's say, point one. On the other hand, we need to realize how to be reimbursed and how to, let's say, to be a part of this reimbursement system. And point three, probably last but not least, that we need to satisfy patient. We need to consider how this device should be user-friendly, patient-friendly, during the night, during the sleep, during the sport, during the exercises, during all procedures, and to fit patient lifestyle perfectly, because our device is continuous using. So up to 7 days, in some cases up to 1 month even. So, and you need to marry on our device at least for 7 days, and you need to be comfortable with it. If you will be not comfortable with it, it will be disaster. It will be the worst 7 days of your life. And we would not be a company who want to provide you worst 7 days experience ever. We want to be a company who provide you best 7 days experience ever as a patient. That's why we need to realize how to collect data in the right way. In our case, in cardiac fields, how to collect EKG data precisely without some muscle noises and so on. But in the end of the day, we need to realize how to make it very, very smooth, to make this process very, very patient friendly. So, and it's like a camera razor. So we need to satisfy both. And sometimes it's difficult.
Yes, and I think you just highlighted one of the complexities of digital health in general, which is the end user is often not the paying customer and often not the distribution channel. And to build a startup, you, of course, need all three and need to cater to all three eventually to have a scalable digital health product if providers are in the picture and you're dealing with insurance. So, yeah, I think it's fascinating to always learn where different startups start. And what I've heard is that, okay, some will start with the providers because they're the distribution channel. If they don't find value, you're not going to be plugged into that reimbursement system. Then there's this category of, let's say, wellness devices that aspire to one day be something that is a part of a program or prescribable. And what they've learned over time is that, look, where companies like us have been failing, and everyone knows this, is when patients don't use it. They don't comply, they don't adhere because our thing is so difficult to use. So we're going to start there. And now you've explained those different stakeholders, right, in your world. And one part that we haven't covered yet is what does Maui do? What does Maui do in terms of for the cardiologist and then for the patient? And then what does it have to do to substantiate reimbursement for the provider?
Our company provides end-to-end solution for cardiologists for cardiac monitoring. In the US, because in the US and in Europe we have different cases, different distribution models. But let's focus on the US market. In the US, we have two main models, two main products. It's Holter monitoring. It's extended Holter up to 7 days monitoring with our single-use, fully disposable device. And the second model is mobile cardiac telemetry, when we provide real-time data streaming from patient to our cardiac back office, when we interpret data by our AI, and when we can make the final decision, final diagnostic during the process, and to notify our client cardiologist in case of some atrial fibrillation or some kind of urgent events occurred. So we have end-to-end solution. I mean, software, hardware. We have number of partnerships in this domain, but we keep all end-to-end solution for our clients, and we provide them, kind of outsourcing services for cardiac monitoring. So, and our idea to reach our product line more and more to give ability to our customers to be focused first of all on treatment, but not on diagnostic, to provide them all kinds of diagnostic, especially for not only for kind of to find some events, but also, let's say in atrial fibrillation, the biggest problem now is how to not only find this AFib event, but how to manage this AFib, how support person during this AFib burden, because it could be 5 years burden, 10 years burden. For some people, they're prescribed for medications like anticoagulants. For some of them, it could be some interventions. For some of them, it could be just supervision and so on. And during this process, now we are going to release device which could also measure AFib continuously, but this device could be used for a patient for years without any needs to be applied on the chest. It will be a wrist-based device for AFib management. The same, we are working on the blood pressure algorithms for continuous cuffless blood pressure measurements as well. So our main global goal to create ecosystem of devices, platforms, AI, to give cardiologists ability to focus on the patient treatment based on very precise and continuous lifetime data from patient to doctors.
Got it. And how do you stand out from the crowd from the perspective of a cardiologist? So, for example, something we hear a lot about is the concept of alert fatigue, which is that physicians are inundated with these systems that feed them from external sources, and they just don't have the time or attention in a day to figure out what it all means. From a cardiologist's perspective, why do they choose you over, let's say, another device or competitor?
I would talk about 4 reasons. Reason number 1, because our device is 2-lead EKG device, which is totally different from majority of players on the market. For sure, we have some competitors with multi-lead devices as well, but majority of patch devices now is single lead. And there are a lot of clinical evidence that two-lead device is much more efficient, especially if people, they have active lifestyle and a lot of noise could be obtained on the EKG trace. It's very critical to have second lead as a second source of data, second source of truth. The first one. The second one, our device is fully disposable. It's a totally different model. Imagine you can have this device like telecardiology. You can apply this device 100 miles away from the practice, from the cardiologist office, and this implementation, this study could be much more efficient because patient no need to go to practice to use this device to go to home for study, and let's say in 7 days to bring this device back. So you can easily mail this device back or upload data automatically. The reason number 3 is that our device is all-in-one. Majority of our competitors, they provide also the product line, like mobile cardiac telemetry, Holter, loop recorder, extended Holter, but it's 3 or 4 different devices, and all of these devices are not single use. So you can imagine you need to have a zoo of devices, a lot of different bulky devices, and the bandwidth is really, really small. Because let's say if you want to service 100 patients per month, you need to have literally, for some cases, 100 devices. And these devices should be also depreciated and so on, because it's a big process. In our case, all our devices are single use. And for us and for our technology, for our platform, it doesn't matter. Are you apply this device as a mobile cardiac telemetry device when we'll have a real-time data streaming, or it will be Holter or extended Holter when we'll record this data to memory, to the device memory, and after we'll make the final report. And the reason number 4, which is also so important, we care about not only about quality of the report, for sure, because quality of the report is the key here. All reports, I suppose all companies, they provided really high quality reports. But we care about time as well. So we are able to provide all reports 24 hours after study is finished. The average, I have no real statistics what's going on the market because there is no public information. But let's say what we heard from our customers, the average time when they will receive the final report from the day when study is finished, it could be up to 2 weeks. So, and we've done the same for 24 hours. First of all, because of our AI, because we've done a lot of pre-interpretation of the data by AI, and the final validation by our cardiologists, who are also certified technicians, and so on.
Got it. So it's that's awesome. It's a better because second source of truth, and faster because you get your results within a day, and efficient because it's fully disposable and all in one. So it's kind of a trifecta of reasons to choose us over the other competitors. So I'm sure you had several inflection points in your startup journey to get there. I'm wondering if you can walk us through some of those earlier stages. For example, when you had your first idea that you wanted to prototype and just show proof that your idea had value to somebody.
As I mentioned, we started our company. It was 3 of us, me and 2 my co-founders. All of us, we didn't have any business before. We didn't have any ideas how real business works. We had a lot of passion, a lot of energy, a small knowledges, because now I realize that it was a small piece of knowledge. These times, it seems for me that it was a huge knowledges, but really it was small. And we realized that we can change the healthcare industry, especially how data from the patient, from the cardiac patient, from chronic patients, go to our, to healthcare providers. And our idea was that there is no chance to analyze data of sick people. Healthcare, it's about health. It's not about sick care. And Daniel Kraft from Singularity University very famous guy in Silicon Valley in US as well. So I was on his lecture in Singularity Summit, and I was absolutely surprised by the idea that we need to build a really healthcare system. It means that patients should be health people, and data should be collected much more before then some diseases obtained, some diseases detected. So that's why our idea was, okay, you will have some halter devices, kind of bulky devices with a lot of wires. There is no chance for us to be successful because we need to collect data from young people. I mean, from relatively young people, from 50 years old, 60 years old people, not from 8 years old people who are already with AFib burden, with strokes, with heart strokes, with heart failure, and so on. And our idea was to create a wristband, the same wristbands like all wristbands on the market, but to augment this wristband by the EKG feature, single lead ECG, to capture this data and to give ability to our customers to transfer this data to the cloud. What was our idea? That we'll provide this service for, let's say, healthy people, and once some problems will be detected, it will be years before some serious problems could be occurred. But for sure, it was a big mistake. It was, kind of dream, kind of vision. But first problem was that we didn't have a chance to realize that who will pay for this, let's say, data collection. Because insurance companies, they told us, okay, guys, yes, it's interesting ideas. Sounds good that young people, young generation will collect some data, will transfer this data to healthcare providers, and once we'll find some risks, it will be good. But guys, to buy this solution, let's say to invest, I mean, not to invest in company, but to invest in this product, to buy this product in our insurance company, please give us a proven statistics, let's say 10 years or 5 years, that if this patient cohort will use this device, they will be successful to predict some states, some let's say AFib or strokes or failures or something like that. And for sure we told, okay, but it's our let's say intelligent guess. We don't have any right data, and to have this data, we need to spend 5 years more to collect this data. We need to find somebody who will invest, let's say, in 100 or 1,000 or 100,000 devices. We need to give them for free to people. And we have to make a massive population study to prove that. It's the first big, let's say, point. The second point, when we go to cardiologists, okay, they told us, guys, very interesting, but why you decided that you can measure ECG from the first lead? It was 2014, 2015, AliveCore, cardiac band company, they just started. So they was our main competitors, but indeed market was really empty. Apple Watch released their feature with in Apple Watch Series 4 2 years after. That's why we try to prove to all cardiologists that, okay, but ECG from the first lead is efficient, is good, and so on. And now I realized, let's say, if as entrepreneurs, engineers, you have a great technology on board, you should be prepared to, let's say, to go through a lot of number of validations, articles, scientific journals, to contribute in the whole, let's say, domain. And one company cannot do it, even Apple, even Samsung. So it should be, kind of 10, 12, 20 companies who will contribute in this domain, who will give different points of views on the same domain, on the same topic. Like now with ECG. Now is ECG kind of approved by clinical society for the, let's say, ECG snapshot, 30 seconds for AFib screening. But 5 years ago, it was just an idea. But a lot of companies, they've published a lot of scientific articles in high respected, well-known medical journals. They've done a number of evaluation studies, clinical trials, and once they prove that it works, technology adopted by market. So it was the problem number 2, that we was not ready to contribute in this academic society in clinical trials to prove that our technology, this approach, because technology is the same, so it's like 2 electrodes, 2 hands, the same device, all the same, but that exactly this approach is a good approach for cardiac screening of AFib patients.
And how do you counter that chicken and egg problem that any company has, which is to sell even your very first adopter on a thing? What they want to know is who else is using it and what value they got from it. So how did you get, for example, your first
As I mentioned,
pilot of someone
we had a
using
number of
Mawi
pilots.
device?
We had even the sales in Europe, in this region, in Asia, of our Mawi band device. But, it was not like systematical business. So we had some occasional cases. We, let's say, convinced some decision makers from different companies, different domains with different hypotheses to try. But it was not, like the final vision how we can grow our company. In the end of the day, we decided to, let's say, to stop this product, Mavi Band, and to switch to absolutely another domain. The same industry, but another domain for like continuous cardiac monitoring for Holter diagnostics. Because in this domain, market was already formed. You don't need to prove to cardiologists that Holter recording is efficient. You need to prove that your device is better, that your device is more efficient, more user-friendly, patient-friendly, let's say workflow is more streamlined. But in the end of the day, no need to prove that Holter approach is good enough to make, let's say, cardiac checkups. And this is the key. You no need to prove to Medicare that they should pay for it, because it's already reimbursement, it's already CPT codes, and it's much more easier because, you just need to follow guidelines, to follow this, let's say, stream, but not to create or reinvent the market. And it's really critical.
Right. And you mentioned Apple getting into the ECG kind of feature space. And of course, Apple Watch started as a wellness device and then is starting to try to walk that line between a wellness device and a medical device that can be used for clinical purposes. And from our previous conversation, I know you made that same journey as far as starting as a wellness device and then getting increasingly medical, getting great at the things that you said, with substantiating evidence, getting through FDA, and so on. I'm just wondering what kind of crossroads you had and what reasons you made for pivoting into this medical device.
In our case, at the beginning we didn't have a clear strategy about the final, let's say, how to position our device. Is it a medical device? Is it a wellness device? Our idea was to be like in between of two niches, to be a medical grade device, which still wellness, but which will be used by clinicians. But it's bullshit, to be honest, because if you're a device for clinicians, for the healthcare, you should be FDA approved, CE approved, and so on. If you're a wellness device, in some cases, it could be used by clinicians, but it's really a rare cases. Let's say probably Apple Watch can be used by clinicians for calories tracking, for steps, for sleep data collection, but in some cases for some reasons. But it could not be a final medical device, which will be a part of the healthcare system, let's say for hospital at home monitoring, for digital therapeutics, and so on. So that's why it was to be honest, it was our big fuck up, because we, let's say, consider as a wellness company, but we target medical device market. And we didn't have this bridge between. And once we realized that, guys, let's stop it. We are not a wellness company. We cannot lie to ourselves more. We need to be transparent with ourselves. We are a medical device company. We should set up all medical device company processes like ISA, like all SOPs to be FDA cleared for all our devices, our software, algorithms, and so on. We need to hire even more, let's say, engineers with experience in medical algorithms, but not just experience with deep learning, machine learning, and so on. And to be honest, we changed almost everything. Probably what was not changed, it's my beautiful co-founders, but all other things really changed from these times, because it's two different companies. If we are talking about the mindset, kind of culture and let's say vision, strategy of the organization, it's two different organizations. Yes, it's the same company, the same legal entity, even some same people on board, same co-founders, but all changed, especially in my head.
Got it. And you had to graduate from, let's say, wellness devices that could be acquired by a consumer based on their own estimate on what the value they get out of that is, or sometimes payer programs that just try to piggyback on consumer device adoption. And you had to go through all of the hurdles and rigor, both in the US and Europe, for being cleared as a medical device. So I'm just curious, first of all, there's FDA and there's CE. What is the difference between the two? And what are some of those challenges and rigor that you have to go through
we are class 2 device,
in
class 2,
graduating
class
to that
2A
class of device?
according to CE classification. 2 years ago, before MDR, MDR, probably for our listeners, it's new update in the European market regulatory, which is like pretty the same to CE, but much more strict. Before this MDR implementation 2-3 years ago, to be honest, CE mark was much more easier to receive for the company because it was just about safety. Let's say if we talk about FDA, it's safety plus performance. So you need to convince FDA in two big domains. The first one, that your device is safe enough by all types of the safety issues. Yes, biocompatible, electromagnetic, human factors, and so on. And the second one, you need to prove, for sure, a QMS system or risk factor analysis and so on. But in the end of the day, to FDA, you need to prove that your device is performed as good as your predicate device. Because we are always working in the 510K domain when we have some predicate device. So usually we go to FDA and we tell them, guys, okay, we have this one. This is our predicate. They already passed all safety, all performance. We perform the same way as they perform, but probably slightly better. And we need to prove some by numbers, by clinical trials, and so on. With CE mark, 2 years ago, it was much more easier. We just need to be ISO certified. 13485 ISO for the medical device design and so on. It's just number of procedures should be implemented in your company, in your organization, risk analysis, and so on. And the second one is technical file. And clinical evaluation study was even sometimes could be written as a literature overview. So no need to pass clinical trial. You just could make some overview that your device, it's pretty the same by features, by performance, and it's enough. But the key that for MDR, you need to be audited on the place. So, before you will receive the final statement, final approval, notified body who is responsible for this certification, the representative of this notified body should go to your site, should, let's say, make audit of all your processes, documentation, technical files, and so on. And once you will fix it, once you will agree that all works good, you will receive a notification from the notified body that your device is approved. Sometimes they asked, before COVID, they asked to make audit of your manufacturer as well. If you have some contracted manufacturer, if you don't have your own manufacturer, they was willing to visit the manufacturer as well. It was kind of logistics problems because you need to take care about this logistics. And if you have some manufacturing in China or in Korea or in Taiwan, so you need to think about it as well. But now MDR with new, let's say, MDR updates, it's pretty the same to FDA. So it's much more close by the regulations, by the nature to the FDA. So I would say it's like 85% the same. Probably the biggest difference now that you don't have a predicate device in MDR, so you just could be like, all devices are kind of de novo devices, so, and it doesn't matter de novo or predicate. And the second one, that you should be get audited before you will receive the final approval. But with FDA, you will submit all documents, you will have some negotiations with them, and after you will receive FDA clearance. And you could be audited in a year, you could be audited in 5 years. I mean, physically audited.
Okay. Right. And I'm really curious how the game changes in terms of efficacy and risk and clearance from, for example, FDA, when you start bringing in the software side. So it's one thing to have a device that performs well for measuring all the things and monitoring all the things that you say. But then let's just say you have machine learning on the back end that is now interpreting those signals as something else. How does FDA look at that? How do you look at that?
I mean, so for sure we need to prove all on data set. We need to explain how our neural networks works. We need to have a predicate device as well. We need to show that our performance is pretty the same to the performance of our predicate device. So to be honest, software as a medical device, it's pretty the same to the classical medical device approach. For sure, you need to, let's say for some of, vital signs, you need to pass additional protocols of the validation. Let's say for ECG analysis, there is a number of public available data sets, and you need to show proven results, proven scores on these data sets, like MIDBIG data set, arrhythmia database, and so on. For, let's say, for couples blood pressure, it's another story. There is two different approaches. We have ISO and we have IEEE standard, which is guideline, what should be done, how all devices, which are, let's say, devices, if you are talking about the blood pressure, you need to pass some guideline and to show results what you will have, let's say, compared to the reference device. By the reference device, they consider a mechanical blood pressure device and two nurses who will make blood pressure measurements simultaneously to double check the quality of the measurement. If you will, I mean, like kind of beat this quality, I mean, if you will achieve some numbers, some indexes by the quality in this field, okay, so it will be a, let's say, a background, what to show to the FDA that you pass all needed tests.
Okay. Well, thank you for that walkthrough. That's been a curiosity of mine for some time, and those kind of blurred lines between hardware and software as a medical device. Now, at Persimmon, we talk about digital health in kind of 3 stages. So first stage is showing proof that your idea has value to early customers or investors, kind of that customer discovery type phase. The second, to being viable by getting the software or hardware into people's hands and determining that they actually get value from it. You have product market fit. And then third is achieving scale by accessing a lot more of the same market with either the same product or kind of new offerings. I'm just wondering a little bit, I mean, man, it seems like you've shown proof, also you are viable and now you're scaling out. I'm curious of you as the co-founder and CEO, how has your job changed over time in the problems you think about? And, and maybe even the same with your founding team.
From day to day. I mean, so when we started, I was responsible for all, and all my co-founders was responsible for all processes. For sure, we have one of my co-founders, he is CTO. One of my co-founders, he is head of R&D, VP of engineering. One of my co-founders, he is responsible for sales, US market, business development activities, marketing. I'm responsible for operations, for product. But in the end of the day, at the beginning, all was responsible for all. For sure, now we have more, so we have aligned strategy. We have founders aligned what should be done during the year. And each founder has his personal, let's say, kind of goals and what should be received in his domain, in his like part of the work. So the first of all, for sure, it's like operational change. By the mindset, all changed absolutely. So I was a guy who is mostly technological guy, like 5 years before. Now I'm kind of product guy. So I'm every day I'm thinking about the products, I'm thinking about the customers, I'm thinking how our solution could improve lives of people, not only the patient lives, because for sure our main strategical, like sustainable development goal to save billions of people lives, and we are saving these lives really every day. So, and we even counted these saved lives. But in the end of the day, we need to make this product very, very good and very professional for our customers as cardiologists, as pharma companies, insurance companies, and so on. So that's why I'm put a lot of attention now on the product, like kind of product discovery, on the cost dev, on all related to product. This is the first one. The second one, all about the leadership, all about the culture in organization. That's why we are trying to have a great talent. We try to find more and more great, brilliant minds, and to, let's say, to hire them, but not to propose them just compensation or stocks, but to try to to get infected them by our virus of the passion to change the world. So it's so important for us. So that's why we pay a lot of attention that all our team members should be aligned with our strategy, with our goals, with our not only KPIs, but with the kind of missions as well.
Got it. Yeah, and is that one of your an advice you would give to, let's say, a single entrepreneur who is trying to build a founding team? Because I think it's amazing that you and your co-founders have been together this long and are still operating in the streamlined way, even though now you have your own domains and swim lanes. What would you advise people to look for in co-founders?
It's probably my favorite
starting
question.
a company today
So,
or advising
first
somebody.
of all, you need to rely on your co-founder. So, the most important is transparency between you and your co-founders. So, the first one. The second one, you should be absolutely aligned in the goals. Let's say if one co-founder's looking for the just one-stop shop, one small project in the healthcare to have exit in half a year to earn some money and to go for the next opportunity, it's one story. And let's say if you choose this opportunity for you for next 10 years, you're not aligned because your co-founder wants to have a quick exit just to, let's say, to get money and you're a mission-driven guy, and it's disaster for your company because you're with absolutely different values. This is the second one. The third one is probably more, more practical. Co-founders should have different operational skills. Let's say if you're a tech guy, it's the best one for you to have, let's say, probably one guy who is a doctor, who is probably ex-doctor or pharma guy, but with a medical background, and the third guy who is entrepreneur, who is guy about sales, about investor relationships, about money, about all of these kind of things. If you're a guy if you're totally entrepreneur and you know how to open the doors, you know how to have a great connections, how to knock and open the biggest doors in the US, let's say, but you don't have any operational skills, you need definitely to have operational partner, operational co-founder who is responsible for all basic operations, because even if you will open the biggest door like Aetna or Apple or Amazon, and they will agree that they are ready to start with you some partnership, it means nothing because you will count the success of this story only once this will be really implemented and really works and you will get revenue on it or some other types of, not revenue, probably by exit or something like this. So this is the third one. Probably the fourth one, you need to be comfortable. for sure, how to calculate, are you comfortable in the day one or not, because it's could be very specific, like kind of reception, because with some people you can be comfortable today but not comfortable in a year. For sure, you cannot find this like ideal person, but you need to listen to your heart and to be comfortable to work with this person, and as I mentioned before, to rely on this person, to trust this person, and to be absolutely transparent with this person in your personal goals, in your like family goals, and so on.
Right. Yeah, I've learned also how important that is and those kinds of alignments. And you and your co-founders, originally from Europe, and I think what that means is you have this unique lens of looking at the US and US healthcare from the outside and observing what exists here, both in disadvantages and also opportunities that's different from Europe. And in fact, you guys made the transition from the European market to the American market. I'm just wondering if you can expand on some of those differences, and
So it's a good
why
question.
you
So
ended up
I
focusing on the
cannot
US market
like answer
next.
probably correctly, because I have biased opinion. I cannot understand what is our main benefits. Probably the biggest benefits, that we are from Ukraine. It's a part of Europe, kind of wild part of Europe, because all business processes are much more, let's say, streamlined, transparent, easy to do, and we are very fast guys. Let's say if we will today we'll sit and agree on something, tomorrow we'll start execution. This is not the same, especially to, let's say, continental part of Europe like Germany, Swiss, Austria, Spain, and so on, when you can wait for 5 months between agreement and starting execution. It's from the one hand. From the other hand, in US, business culture is really, really kind of very kind of money related, and it's good. So it's not bad, because business, it's about money first of all. And let's say you can have like 10 meetings per day, and each of these person you will meet will give you 2 or 3 or 5 more references. I was absolutely surprised when we came from Europe first time to US. We met this guy first time in our life. Let's say we met this guy 5 minutes ago, and he already gave us like 5 new introductions to high level people. So because in Europe, especially probably in UK, you need to wait years before you will achieve some status in your, let's say, kind of community, to be introduced to somebody, because it's very tricky, so it's very, very official process and so on. So we was absolutely surprised in US how this networking go, because you can reach hundreds or thousands of people in a weeks, in a months of some road shows. From the one hand, from the other hand, we was absolutely unsuccessful in US before one of our co-founders didn't land in US like the final destination, because as a tourist, each time we go to US, we had a very good conversations, very promising deals and so on, but in the end of the day we didn't have nothing, because it was like it lost day by day. It's phenomenon, because I cannot explain why, because we now have Zoom, we have all these emails and so on, and okay, we agree on something, we went back to Europe, and because of something in 2 weeks, all our, let's say, agreements was not canceled, but kind of delayed, and after postponed, and after like just that. So, but if you're in US, you can how to say, make it more efficient and to influence on the result more efficient. And you can stay in the community, you can communicate with people not only about business, but about kind of like family, vacations, and so on. And it's also so important to have not only business-related conversations with your clients, partners, subcontractors, and so on. So probably to conclude, as Europeans, we are much more, let's say, aggressive in sales marketing because we are like, kind of, we want to achieve this result faster and faster. We have some experiences which is in Europe, which could be unique for US, because majority of, let's say, healthcare experiences, healthcare products, they transferred from US to Europe. But in some cases, our unique knowledges, our unique vision of the market could be transferred from Europe to US. But it's, let's say, not very usual case. Probably it will be my answer.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm curious about the healthcare side too. I think you're absolutely right that there is this culture of learning and sharing and good karma in the US that may be unique. Now, on the healthcare side, right, as someone who has not lived in Europe, I've been to Europe, but what we hear is that, oh, well, in Europe, everyone has their healthcare paid for. And so it's a very, it's a simple system. And in the US, we are burdened with this overly complex multi-payer types of systems where it's very confusing to get started. But in our last conversation, you kind of potshotted that a bit, that, kind of outside stereotype of the different systems. So I'm wondering from an entrepreneurial perspective, how you view the differences between
Chris, I guess
starting a healthcare company in Europe versus a healthcare company in the US.
There is no European market at all. I'm like, when I gave some lectures in Ukraine to our Ukrainian friends, young entrepreneurs, I always try to convince them that, guys, if you're talking about European market, it's not correct, because market in Germany, in United Kingdom, in Spain, in Portugal, in Czech Republic, in Poland, all these markets are different because of the healthcare system, because of the language, because of the reimbursement system, because of the regulations. Probably regulations slightly the same because it's all CE mark, let's say, region, but all other like issues I've mentioned above are really different. That's why this market is not so huge, because if we talk about German market, which is the biggest one, it's big enough, but it's not so huge as the whole European market. But you cannot, say, penetrate the whole European market. You need to go country by country. You need to find the countries which is more lucrative for you, let's say, by the reimbursement, by the healthcare system, by the competitors' landscape, and so on. And you need to follow your strategy how to conquer Europe. In US, it's slightly different. US is absolutely the same, from New York to Washington, D.C., to Portland, to Oregon, California, and so on. Probably some rates could be different, some reimbursement rates, probably some local regulations could be different, but it's one country, one language, one zone, one FDA clearance, one, probably for doctors, yes, if you have some, let's say, telehealth, telemedicine, you need to have doctors who are licensed in the whole states or in a number of states where you operate. But in the end of the day, it's more operational problem. But really, there is no difference to sell in Texas or in Arizona. But it's a huge difference between to sell in United Kingdom or in Czech Republic. So that's why it's a key difference, the biggest difference. And if we talk about each market, in Europe, there is different reimbursement system. In some countries, we have like national reimbursement system when all reimbursed by the government. In some countries, it's mostly private insurance. In some countries, we have mix of private insurance and government reimbursement, but it's totally different from what we have in US. And the all pricing for sure are less. In US, we have the biggest reimbursement pricing, I guess, ever.
And you've been navigating many of these huge transitions for a company. So there's from Europe to the US, from wellness device to medical device. And then you've been at this for 5+ years with your co-founders, and now you've gone through the pandemic. I'm curious, for a RPM medical device
to be honest,
startup,
I would say
how
that
has the
I guess pandemic
impacted you?
Impacted the whole healthcare system. It's absolutely changed paradigm from the in-office healthcare, I mean in the physician office, to more home health, hospitals in home, telehealth, and all other things. For sure, it supports us because our initial idea was to make hospital at home, all diagnostics at home, and so on. So outpatient monitoring, ambulatory monitoring, so all out of hospital. So that's why it probably increased the way how healthcare providers adopt these kinds of technologies. The first one. The second one, for sure, interest from the VCs. We are not VC-based company, but in general, interest from the capital guys, private equities, VCs, and so on, increased to this industry because, you know, before pandemic, healthcare industry was very promising, especially like probably digital therapeutics, gene industry, some like drug discovery, and so on. But majority of companies was in a kind of in the shadow. Yes, it was not very high demanded by VCs, but for sure it was a big demand from the VCs to find the right companies, right founders, and to invest in the healthcare. Because one day, all population realized that health is the value number one of our population, of our society, and for sure, people who are responsible for this, healthcare guys. Doesn't matter, is it pharma companies, is it medtech companies, is it hospitals, healthcare providers, and so on. All these guys are now like the biggest guys in the world because they are responsible for the life of the whole population. So probably it was also important. But operationally, it changed probably the paradigm. It slightly changed the way how we sell our products, how we market our products, how we produce even our products, how we have now more distributed team. Yes, we don't have one office, we have different offices. But all these things are pretty simple.
Got it.
Yeah, sure.
And
but
you mentioned production.
Were
you impacted by things like manufacturing and logistics?
The problem is not solved totally. So that's why impact of the COVID, especially the last Chinese COVID wave, which was I suppose in March, April, even February, March, April of this year. We still have some negative impact of these events even now in our business.
And have you been navigating towards a successful startup? I know from our previous conversation you mentioned that you made all the mistakes and you were able to learn from those. I'm wondering what are just one or two mistakes that you think are especially instructive either for you or for future entrepreneurs.
Do not try to convince yourself that you are right. Go to the market and to check it from the market. If market will tell you that you are right, will tell you by you will receive a good positive feedback on your product, some first clients, first partners, and so on. It means that your product is good. Don't overestimate your wisdom that you are the number one guy and you know better than all industry what to do. The first one. The second one, probably that if you're a medtech guy, let's say sit well fastened and be seated and long journey started. There is no chance to, let's say, to escape from this journey in a half a year, in 2 years, and so on. For sure, we know some success stories of companies like Teladoc company or some even like, I didn't recall the names, but companies who like started their businesses like 2-3 years ago, and they now already or public companies or billion valuation companies or some founders already done some exits. But probably it's based on the unique experience, previous experience of the founders, that they know exactly what to do and how to be successful in this short-term period. Usually in this business, in this kind of business, it's a long story. It's a long story and you should be prepared, and let's say your family, your lifestyle, and all around you should be prepared for this long story with, I'm joking always that year one, it's zero profit, and probably sometimes it could be high profit with a high margin. but there is no chance in the medical device business to receive, let's say, big profits from the day one, from the year one, just because of the regulations, just because of the clinical trials, just because of the supply chain, just because of the thousands of factors.
Right.
You should be prepared that product development phase is much more longer than in other industries.
Got it. And if you were to give a piece of advice to other people from Europe that want to build, grow, operate a startup, either in Europe or in the US, and kind of follow in those footsteps.
If you're ordinary person,
that,
I mean,
you know,
for some people who are
on,
extraordinary, I mean, for some,
what would
let's
that
say,
piece of advice
founders
be?
of the business who have done number of exits and they exactly know what to do in the next business, it's different story. For the like normal, ordinary startup founder, first you need to find right co-founders for this business, because I would believe that in this kind of business you cannot be like one-man show. It should be a partnership. It should be partnership between clinical person, doctor, clinician, between engineer, tech guy, and between entrepreneur. For sure, it's the best scenario if all of them are entrepreneurs, all of them are, let's say, clinicians with a tech experience and so on, with a scientific experience. But in the reality, at least one this person should cover this domain. The first one. The second one, you should be confident that your knowledge, your expertise, your technology is really unique enough to find the place on this market. I guess during the podcast, we talked a lot about the product market fit. We talked a lot about that in healthcare business, we have different stakeholders, like different end payers, end users, and beneficiaries. You need to double check that all these players, or in your business, it could be more stakeholders or less stakeholders, but you should be confident that with your idea, all these stakeholders will benefit from this idea. If somebody will not benefit, it's no go, unfortunately.
And I have two more questions. One is your crystal ball question, and I have a bonus question. But so about the future of what you do. So what do you believe the future looks like for medical devices? Complemented by software like machine learning.
Let's say I have two different answers, for two different target audience.
The industry.
The first one probably more conventional, that nothing changed. I mean, all medical device technology, they have the same scenario. You need to invent something. You need to, let's say, to make the presentation to academic, to clinical society. You need to make validation of this, and you need to make contribution. And all these companies from the niche need to make a contribution in the, let's say, in the whole unique knowledge as a meta knowledge of this domain to be acknowledged and approved and adopted by clinicians, and to be successfully implemented in the clinical workflow. Probably the second answer, which is more futuristic, is that probably something changed because of the metaverse, because of the Web 3.0, because approach how patients go to hospitals, how these hospitals looks like, slightly changed. And even in some reasons, regulations could be also changed. That's why it will influence on the whole business, on the whole industry. But as I mentioned, we are in medical device business, but we still in the kind of not so complex devices, to be honest. So our devices are pretty, are not very simple. But if we, let's say compare these devices with MRI device or something even more like devices for some cancer treatment, it's pretty simple device. Probably for some more complex devices, regulations will be the same, because it's about safety, it's about class 3 FDA, it's about not only performance, but it's about safety. Some devices could be implantable devices, it's another story, some sterile devices. But for devices like watches, some devices which could measure something, it could be probably in the next 10 years, 20 years, the regulation could be changed because results which we can have from implementation of these devices could be very, very efficient, and industry will ask regulator to make this process more streamlined and more transparent, more fast, as we had during the COVID. Let's say if the country, if the government, if the population needs to be approved something faster, they will do it faster because it's urgent need. Probably for some pandemic, and I suppose that future pandemic will be about depressions, about mental health, about stress. And for these kind of solutions, for these kind of devices, probably in the future we'll have separate regulations which could be much more faster, because in the one day, clinicians realize that they need these devices to control patients, to manage these patients, and so on.
Well, yeah, I think that's an exciting vision, in particular, trying to get more people to have that learning and sharing mindset and create this meta database, right, of knowledge and best practices and what's yet to be tried. Okay, so my last fun question is, I used to play poker to kind of earn money during my summers while I was in college and graduate school. And then I read this book called The Poker MBA, which really distilled a lot of the principles of poker and expected value and reading people and finding information into this curriculum for how to be an entrepreneur, which is fascinating.
Yeah, correct.
And I noticed that
it was in my childhood.
Are
so I used to be an even professional chess player,
Ukrainian vice
but
champion
when I was
in
a
chess.
kid. So it was years and
takes
years
a lot of
before.
study, and I'm curious, do you any of the skills or strategies in chess or the ability to learn things
Chris,
in chess,
it's my favorite question.
were those
I have even
transferable
one
to
hour
you as an
lecture
entrepreneur
about
as you were learning to become an
this.
entrepreneur
I
or
will
running
also
your
refer
business?
to the book of the famous chess player Gary Kasparov. I guess you know him. So
Okay.
the name of the book, because I read this book in my childhood in Russian, so I need to translate the name. It will be a kind of chess as the life model. So, and he, let's say, talked about that all our life is a chess game, but it was not a how to say, it was not scientific book. It was not just literature. It was a real evidences how his life changed because of his knowledge of playing chess. And I totally agree with each word from this book. I would say that let's say all my decisions powered by my, let's say, chess mindset, and all my partners, co-founders, my family, they're kidding me that, all my life is a strategy, and sometimes they even cannot realize how steps forward I calculated this option and so on. But all of my, let's say, people around me, they are really thinking that I'm calculating each situation, each move, what's going on. But I would say I'm this person, so they're right. So I try to calculate all scenarios. I try to be prepared for all scenarios. I try to calculate as fast as I can and as deep as I can in all situations. But in the end of the day, chess is unique because sometimes you need to sacrifice something at the beginning to receive a big result in the end. It's about entrepreneurship. So
right, yeah, that really resonates. And yeah, Ron, I'm happy that you're playing chess for what feels like the good team in U.S. healthcare.
Thanks.
Really am a huge fan of
Chris.
you.
Thanks for
your
invitation.
outlook on
Thanks, Binal.
entrepreneurship.
It was a great
I just want
time
to
with
thank
you
you
guys.
for being guests
Thanks
on
for
our
invitation
podcast.
once
I
more.
learned a ton and had a great time talking with you.
Thanks for listening to this podcast and being a part of this movement. This podcast is brought to you by Persimmon Health, an offering by Leapfrog Technology that's purpose-built to help innovators imagine, build, and scale digital health products. We're passionate about fixing healthcare and have worked on over 50 digital health products. If you want to share your story or want to work together, please shoot an email to hello@persimmonhealth.com. Thank you once again, and I look forward to seeing you on the next podcast.